Picture this. You're looking out your living room window in the middle of the night.
Right. Pitch black outside.
Exactly. And there is a howling storm raging outside, wind battering the glass, rain coming down in absolute sheets. And then you see it.
The worst case scenario.
Yeah, that massive, beautiful, century-old oak tree in your front yard. You know, the one that provides all that amazing summer shade, the one your kids climb. It is suddenly leaning at a terrifying, completely unnatural angle right towards your roof.
Oh, man.
And over the roar of the wind, there is this loud, sickening cracking sound echoing through the yard. What exactly do you do in the next 5 minutes?
It really is, it's the ultimate nightmare scenario for any property owner. Because in a fraction of a second, a beloved landscaping asset instantaneously transforms into, well, an immediate life-threatening hazard.
Yeah,
Time is completely against you, and I mean, panic is the absolute worst reaction you can have.
So we are focusing purely on emergency tree failures today. Our sources for this deep dive come from a really highly detailed collection of specialized guides and case studies by John Constantine at El Monte Tree Service.
Really great material in there, yeah.
It really is. And the mission here is to arm you with a comprehensive survival and safety guide. We want you to know exactly how to handle those unpredictable, terrifying moments when nature just turns on your property.
Okay, let's unpack this because, you know, trees don't just decide to spontaneously fall over on a Tuesday night.
No, definitely not.
There is a massive hidden sequence of events leading up to that final crack.
Yeah, and to survive the crisis, you really have to understand the invisible mechanics of the threat. The sources we're looking at, they use Southern California as a sort of dramatic case study for the specific environmental stressors that, you know, cause these massive structural failures.
Because they get such extreme weather shifts there. Exactly. It is rarely just one rogue storm that brings down a giant oak or like a eucalyptus. It is actually a compounding sequence of extreme weather events that destroy the tree from the inside out, often over several years.
I always just assumed. I thought a strong enough wind could knock anything down, but you're saying the trees usually compromise long before the clouds even roll in.
Oh, absolutely. The destruction almost always begins with prolonged drought. We tend to think of trees as, you know, static pillars of wood, right?
Right.
But they are living plumbing systems. During long dry spells, large trees are just starved of moisture. The root systems actually shrink back from the surrounding dirt, breaking their physical anchor.
Wow.
And inside the trunk, the lack of water literally hollows out the structural integrity of the heartwood. So the tree is essentially dying and rotting from the inside out, even if, you know, the outer canopy still pushes out green leaves that fool the untrained eye.
See, I was thinking about this whole weather cycle like a strategic wrestling combination.
Okay, I like that.
So the prolonged drought, that's the series of body blows. It softens the tree up, weakens its core defense over time, making it hollow and brittle. And then the opponent moves to the next maneuver, which is the atmospheric river.
That phenomenon is a major catalyst, yeah. People hear atmospheric river and often just think, oh, it's a really rainy day. But mechanically, an atmospheric river is a concentrated band of water vapor in the sky, sometimes like 250 miles wide.
Which is insane to even picture.
It is. It's flowing like a literal river above the ocean. When it hits land, it acts like an industrial fire hose. The soil around the tree, which has been baked into hard clay for years by the drought, it just cannot absorb that volume of water slowly.
The soil just liquefies.
It turns into a deep basin of fluid mud. The root system, which we already know shrank and weakened during the drought, suddenly finds itself floating in soup. It completely loses physical friction and grip on the earth.
It sweeps the leg.
Exactly.
The drought softened the tree up, the atmospheric river sweeps the leg by liquefying the foundation, and then we get the knockout blow.
The final element arrives, right? High-velocity wind, like the Santa Ana winds in California. You have a massive, hollowed-out wooden lever sitting in a bowl of liquid mud, and then you hit the top of it with hurricane-force gusts.
It doesn't stand a chance.
The biomechanics simply fail. The lever pulls the roots straight out of the soup, and the tree topples.
Hearing the mechanics of how that happens makes that image at the living room window even more terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put ourselves back in that moment. You are staring out the glass. What are the specific warning signs that distinguish a normal, messy storm from an active, catastrophic emergency?
Well, sound is a massive indicator. When wood fibers physically shear and snap under immense kinetic stress, it sounds like loud percussive popping or even gunfire.
Gunfire, wow.
Yeah, it's that loud. If you hear that over the ambient noise of the storm, Structural failure is actively occurring.
I imagine sound isn't the only warning, though. If I'm trying to look through the rain, what visual cues signal that gravity is winning?
You want to look at the ground first,
Yes.
specifically the base of the trunk. If you see severe root exposure, meaning the soil on the side opposite the wind is suddenly heaving upward or cracking open like a miniature earthquake, the roots have already ripped out of their anchor.
Oh, man.
The tree is already falling, it just hasn't hit the ground yet.
The sources also warned about deep vertical trunk cracks. But I look at trees all the time, and they have, deep textured bark. How do you tell the difference between normal bark and a structural crack?
Normal bark fissures are superficial, they just sit on the surface. A structural crack often exposes the lighter inner wood of the tree. It looks like the trunk is physically unzipping itself.
Unzipping. That is a terrifying visual.
It is. When you see a vertical split running deep into the core, the structural integrity of the entire weight-bearing canopy above it is just gone.
Okay, so you've looked out the window. You see the heaving soil, you hear the popping fibers, the trunk is unzipping. The immediate instinct for a lot of people is to run outside and try to move their car or, I don't know, secure their patio furniture.
Running outside is the fastest way to get killed.
Really? Just don't even risk it.
Absolutely not. The moment you identify those signs, you are in a live drop zone. Your only priority is to evacuate that specific side of the house, isolate your family and pets in a safe interior room, and stay entirely clear of the impact area. Do not gamble on the hope that a leaning trunk will just magically stabilize.
Because gravity never takes a day off.
It is relentless. Time only worsens structural compromises. The longer that massive weight hangs there, the higher the risk of it crashing through the roof or crushing a vehicle.
Let's play this out a bit further. Say the tree does fall, or a massive 1,000-pound branch comes down and completely blocks your driveway. I've got to play devil's advocate here on behalf of every handy homeowner listening.
Okay, go for it.
I have a perfectly good cane saw sitting in my garage. The storm is past. Why shouldn't I just go out there, cut the branch into chunks, and clear my own driveway so I can get to work?
What's fascinating here is the invisible physics at play. When we look at a fallen tree, our brains just register a piece of dead, inert wood resting quietly on the lawn.
Right, it's just a log now.
But in reality, massive fallen branches are highly dangerous, loaded kinetic mechanisms. Arborists refer to this as stored tension.
Stored tension. Break that down for me, because I just see a log on the ground.
When a massive limb falls, it rarely lays perfectly flat. It gets pinned against the earth, wedged against other branches, or jammed against a structure. Imagine taking a thick, heavy fiberglass pole and bending it into a U-shape, then pinning the ends down.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Millions of pounds of kinetic energy from the fall are trapped in the bend of those wood fibers. They are under immense twisting pressure.
So it's basically a giant coiled spring waiting for a release trigger.
And your chainsaw is the trigger. If you cut into a tension branch without a deep understanding of arboricultural physics, you sever the fibers holding that energy back. It releases in a microsecond.
Oh.
The remaining wood can aggressively snap back, kick upward into your face, or cause the entire trunk to roll over instantly.
I never thought about it like that. You are dealing with thousands of pounds of wood moving faster than human reflexes can handle.
Exactly. People lose limbs or their lives trying to clean up seemingly simple yard debris. Furthermore, a fallen canopy often conceals downed, live power lines. Attempting a do-it-yourself fix is a catastrophic risk.
And the only time you should ever touch anything is if it's like completely separated small debris, right? Far away from power lines.
Yes, very small twigs, completely disconnected from the main structure. Anything else, leave it alone.
That completely changes how you look at yard cleanup. It sounds like physically interacting with the fallen structure is just entirely off the table.
Yeah.
But if you are trapped in the house, staring at a crushed roof or a blocked driveway, what concrete steps can you take while waiting for the professionals?
Your most valuable tool in that moment is your smartphone camera. Before any professional crew touches the debris, you must document the scene. Take clear, well-lit photos of the property damage, the vehicle damage, and the overall state of the fallen tree from a safe distance.
This is all about the insurance claim, right? Because I imagine insurance companies are highly scrutinizing these kinds of massive payouts.
Oh, absolutely. The insurance nuances are critical to understand. Coverage typically hinges on two major factors. First, what the tree hit, and second, the condition of the tree prior to the storm.
Okay.
If a healthy tree falls on a covered structure, like your actual house or attached garage, due to an unpredictable violent storm, your homeowner's insurance will generally cover the extraction of the tree and the structural repairs.
The key word there being healthy.
Yes, healthy. Insurance adjusters are trained to look for negligence. When they arrive, they will inspect the stump and the shattered wood. If they see obvious signs of long-term rot, deep hollowing, or, bracket fungi growing on the bark that you ignored for years,
They'll use that against you.
they can argue that the tree didn't fall because of the storm. It fell because you neglected routine maintenance. And if they prove negligence, they can deny the entire claim.
Which means you are paying tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket.
Yeah.
So taking photos immediately establishes the baseline of the damage before cleanup alters the scene.
Exactly.
After you call the insurance company, you call the emergency tree service. And here's where it gets really interesting. The sources draw a massive, bright red line between routine tree maintenance and emergency extraction.
They are fundamentally different industries. I mean, routine maintenance involves scheduling a crew weeks in advance, right? They show up at 10 a.m. on a sunny Tuesday with basic pruners, a standard bucket truck, and a chipper to trim a perfectly stable, predictable tree.
But emergency extraction sounds more like a military operation.
It really does. It requires immediate 24/7 dispatch. These crews are arriving in the pitch black, often while the storm is still raging. They are confronting unstable, tension-loaded timber resting on a collapsing roof.
So a bucket truck isn't going to cut it.
Not at all. The basic bucket truck is useless. They bring in heavy industrial cranes, massive diesel floodlights to illuminate the drop zones, and advanced dynamic rigging gear.
Hearing about cranes dismantling a yard in the middle of the night makes me wonder about the actual mechanics. How do they safely take apart a tree that is coiled up with all that dangerous stored tension we talked about earlier?
Well, the lead arborist's first job is essentially a geometric puzzle. They have to assess this chaotic pile of wood, identify exactly where the kinetic energy is trapped, and establish safe drop zones. They never just start cutting.
That makes sense after what we just discussed about the snapback.
Right. They use a crane and heavy-duty rigging ropes to secure a branch before making the cut.
So the crane takes the weight of the branch before the chainsaw ever touches the tensioned wood.
Yes, exactly. By tying it off to the crane, they transfer the kinetic energy away from the house and into the steel cables. So when they make the release cut, the branch doesn't violently snap or crash through the rest of your roof. The crane catches it, absorbs the shock, and lowers it to the ground in a slow, controlled descent.
It's like playing a giant, dangerous game of Jenga, but you have a crane holding the pieces from above so the tower doesn't collapse.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it, honestly. They systematically dismantle the hazard piece by piece, removing the tension gradually until the area is completely neutralized.
And then they haul it away.
Yep. Once the danger is gone, grapple trucks haul away the massive logs, leaving the property safe for the roofing contractors and insurance adjusters to actually begin their work.
It is incredible how methodical the engineering is amidst all that chaos. But hearing all of this, the cranes, the massive costs, the terrifying risks, it naturally begs a huge question. Is there a way to spot this and stop it before the storm ever hits?
Prevention is always cheaper and safer than emergency extraction. This brings up the critical concept of canopy maintenance and strategic crown thinning.
Oh.
The objective of pruning isn't just about making the yard look manicured. It is about physically engineering how the tree interacts with extreme weather dynamics.
I read this part of the source material, and my mind was absolutely blown. I always thought you wanted a big, thick, dense canopy of leaves because it acts like a wall to block the wind from hitting your house.
That is a very common and very dangerous misconception. A dense, overgrown canopy filled with dead wood acts exactly like a solid canvas boat sail.
A sail.
Yeah. When a 60-mile-per-hour Santa Ana wind rolls through, that dense canopy catches 100% of the kinetic force. All of that immense pressure pushes directly against the top of the tree, which acts as a lever, transferring the force straight down into the root system, pulling it out of the ground.
So by strategically thinning the crown, cutting out the dead wood, opening up corridors between the branches, you are fundamentally changing the aerodynamic.
You are.
The wind just passes cleanly through the branches instead of pushing against a solid wall. You are taking the sail down before the hurricane hits.
You reduce the wind resistance drastically, exactly. But the dangers of a neglected canopy aren't just about wind either. There is a hidden domino effect that most homeowners never see coming.
What do you mean?
A neglected canopy will constantly drop excessive leaves and dead twigs onto your roof. Those leaves wash down and completely clog your gutter system.
Oh, I hate cleaning those out.
Mm.
And when that atmospheric river we talked about earlier hits, that water has absolutely nowhere to drain.
Nowhere at all. The water overflows the blocked gutters and sheets. It pushes straight down the siding of your home and pools massively around the base of your house.
Oh, yeah.
Over a few seasons, that concentrated water saturation expands and contracts, causing severe structural cracking in your concrete foundation. A neglected tree can literally destroy your home's foundation without a single branch ever falling on the property.
The gutter to foundation pipeline. That is wild. But how do you know if a tree is secretly rotting inside, or if it just needs a trim? The professionals have to have ways to diagnose this stuff that doesn't involve just looking up and guessing, right?
No, absolutely. Modern arboriculture relies on high-tech hazard assessments. To diagnose that internal drought decay we discussed, they don't just guess. They use tools like a resistograph.
A resistograph.
Yeah, it drives a microscopic drill needle deep into the trunk to measure the density and resistance of the wood. It gives them a digital readout, essentially acting like a stud finder for internal rot, locating hollow cavities invisible from the outside.
Wait, really? A stud finder for trees?
Yeah.
That is incredible.
It is super advanced. They also utilize aerial drones to inspect the upper canopy for microfractures in the high branches, and they are trained to identify specific biological markers, like that bracket fungi we mentioned growing on the lower bark, which is a screaming siren that the internal root system is actively decaying.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is really a massive conversation about liability and financial responsibility, isn't it?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, yes, absolutely. Addressing a struggling tree on a sunny afternoon in October is infinitely cheaper than paying for an emergency crane extraction at 2 a.m. in January.
That makes total sense.
Furthermore, if a hazardous tree on your property falls because you ignored the warning signs, you carry the liability. If it crushes your neighbor's roof or injures a pedestrian on the sidewalk, the legal and financial fallout is devastating.
So what does this all mean? It means that having an arborist out to thin your trees isn't like a luxury landscaping expense. It is a fundamental safety protocol, just like checking the batteries in your smoke detectors.
Right. It is essential preventative engineering for your property.
Let's bring this all together. Our entire goal with this deep dive was to make sure you have a mental blueprint. If you look out the window and see the soil heaving or hear the wood fibers snapping like gunfire, to evacuate the drop zone immediately.
And to respect the lethal physics of stored tension by keeping your chainsaw safely in the garage.
Don't touch it.
Right, don't touch it. You understand the importance of documenting the scene for your insurance adjusters, and you understand why emergency cranes are necessary to safely diffuse the kinetic energy of a fallen structure.
And most importantly, you know how to engineer your trees with proactive crown thinning, so the wind passes right through them, avoiding the crisis altogether. You now have the knowledge to handle the situation calmly, safely, and smartly.
Exactly.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. The source material we reviewed highlighted a really fascinating detail. Local arborists are so effective because they intimately understand how native species interact with specific local soil conditions.
Native adaptation is a huge factor in whether a tree survives extreme weather.
It really is. So I invite you to do this. The next time you look out your window at that massive, beautiful tree in your yard, the one you picture when you hear the howling wind, ask yourself a question.
A very important question.
Do you actually know if the trees planted around your home are native species, evolved over thousands of years to perfectly withstand your local climate's extreme weather whiplash? Or are they non-native transplants, secretly struggling with the soil, acting as a beautiful but fragile, ticking time bomb just waiting for the next major storm?
Something to consider for sure.
It's definitely something to think about before the wind starts blowing.